This is Ed Hitchens for Energeticcity.ca, and this is the Community Roundup brought to you by Brad's Furniture and Appliances. And we are joined by Clint Parker, who is the head coach of the Northern Combative Club, and he's here to talk about the upcoming NIC Invitational that's going to take place on February 17th. Clint, how you doing today?
I'm awesome. I can't complain.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to be talking to you. You seem to have a real focus on, bringing the MMA community a little more closer to home. Every time you see a UFC event or an mixed martial arts event, it comes from like a big market, but you want to bring this a little closer to home. Tell me why this is a motivation for you.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I spent a lot of time in my life traveling, because Fort St. John's such an isolated community. I've spent a ton of time and money traveling to compete and train. And so my biggest thing, MMA used to be huge in this town. We have tons of good fighters. But when COVID hit, it kind of ruined MMA a little bit. And it was harder to
Any fighters that we've heard of?
Well, like Brad Stewart, for instance, a guy local from town. He was a 5-star champ, and we had a bunch of them, to be honest. But the problem was, when COVID hit, the shows were hard to get to. So I found now a lot of people want to do jiu-jitsu. So what's cool about this card? It's an MMA style card, but it's all grappling jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
nobody's getting punched in the face.
So nobody's getting punched in the face. Well,
That's
obviously a good thing for anybody who doesn't want to get punched in the face. But for me, did you take me back to the first pro event you threw in Fort St. John?
Yeah.
I mean, compare that to where your promotion, your promotion is now. I mean, you seem to have a robust, loyal following. I understand that the Fort St. John Legion is sold out. Why do you think that this is? Why do you think that you've been able to capture the attention of the community so well?
Well, to be honest, all my other events were basically kind of amateur. There was no real money on the line, and I just did $5 for people to come in just to have somewhere for everybody to compete. And I would do Grand Prix and to find out who the champion was, kind of thing.
Almost like a pride style.
Yeah, pride style is exactly what we did. Yeah,
Okay.
And just grappling. And then I was really lucky because we've had people from the Yukon. We've had a lot of good gyms from Grand Prairie come. We even pulled guys from Edmonton and Prince George. So, but even the people in Prince George are 6 hours to Vancouver, so we're the closest place to compete. So the first 7 shows were all kind of amateur to set up for this one. Now this one, there's money on the line. Best submission's $500. Best match $400. So the guys can actually win money in 6 minutes of fighting.
Okay. All right. So, how did you discover Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I know the origins of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu date back to even before you and I were even here.
Yeah.
In Brazil and those little grappling wars that the Gracies used to have.
Yeah.
On the beaches in Brazil, but it didn't really explode until the rise of the UFC. But how did you first discover it? I mean, I know for myself, the very first MMA event I ever watched was Pride 3 in Japan back in 1988.
That's
Or
awesome.
1998, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
And, watching guys like Gary Goodridge
Yeah.
and Carlos Newton. But, when you first discovered this, how did it come about? First of all, and how has it benefited or helped you, not just on a financial level? Obviously, everybody thinks about money, but how did it benefit you on a personal level, learning jiu-jitsu and growing from it?
Totally. I actually 2021 right out of high school, I got into gas compression. So I was a gas compression mechanic, and honestly, I spent so much time by myself in the middle of nowhere, you get pretty lonely. And you can't play hockey, you can't play team sports because you're never there. So I actually watched Randy Couture beat up Tito Ortiz, and it blew me away.
I think I remember that fight.
Yeah, it blew me away.
Was that the one where he spanked him?
Spank him, yeah. And I never knew that some old guy could go out there and spank this guy. I thought this guy's younger, he's tougher, he's going to destroy this guy. And then I watched it, and I was completely blown away at the grappling and how he just controlled him and he spanked him. And so after that, I was basically hooked. I was around 22 years old then. I'm 42 now. And I basically got right into it. I bought mats, started going to my friend's house, Mike's. I've rolled in people's basements, garages, you name it. And then honestly, I just phoned Vanderlei Silva's gym and started training at One Fight Team.
Vanderlei Silva, I met Vanderlei Silva.
He's awesome.
He's actually a very cool guy.
Yeah, incredible guy to train with.
So how do you feel like fighters in this region? I know obviously the big cities. There's always going to be. Canada's always had a loyal following of a deep pocket pool of fighters. So how do you think the fighters in your show have the potential to go on from this regional BJJ contest and elevate themselves to another level where it gets the attention of promotions like ONE FC or the UFC or or even the PFL now, because it's actually offering more money now.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of my biggest reasons I'm doing this. So I've thrown 7 tournaments so far in 2 years. So a lot of my guys, like Steve, for instance, fighting for the belt, he's 16-5, and when you add up his other fights in Edmonton, I think
What's
he's
his last name?
Steve Smith.
Steve.
And we call him
Steve
Big
Smith.
Smith, Big Steve. And but what's cool is like just in this area, inside of a year and a half, he had over 20 grappling matches. So I'm able to give these guys tons of experience right here at home, and then our plans are to start sending our boys to ADCC, see if they can start qualifying for high level stuff, and then
Abu Dhabi.
yeah, and then pretty soon, to be honest, grappling's such a good base for MMA. Pretty soon, I'm going to have some MMA fighters ready to go. We'll start fighting amateur in Edmonton, and we'll work. Or with Shannon coming up, I got a good hookup in Arizona, starting the States, and then move up from there.
Yeah, I was actually going to comment about that. Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon
Rich.
Rich, is it? Yeah, he's a special guest referee for the matches.
Yeah.
This guy's fought a who's who of
everyone.
of MMA fighters, from Sakuraba to Jake Shields to even Yuki Kondo,
Yeah.
Dennis Hallman. How did that affiliation come about? How do you know Shannon?
I was actually cornering. I had 7 fighters down in Edmonton at King of the Cage.
Okay.
And Shannon was fighting, I want to say it was Jose Pele Landy Jones, which I was a huge fan of because he trained Vanderlei, and I huge fan. So I got to meet him, and then I was training my people in the cage, and Shannon came up and said, "Man, you got a main coach. What do you Jiu-Jitsu?" And I said, "I'm nothing. I've never done gi Jiu-Jitsu. I'd competed for years, but I never had a coach." And he offered to coach me, and then brought him up a few times, and I mean, he's so knowledgeable. And so yeah, I've been under him for almost 20 years.
Okay.
Give or take.
All
He's
right.
a really good guy.
Okay. All right. And what are we going to see that's different from contests you've had before as opposed to now?
I would think the biggest thing with this show, what I'm trying to do, is it's going to be, I'm not going to say more family oriented, but it's cool. I've set up 10 tables, so it's kind of an intimate thing, like I would say a EBI or an Eddie Bravo contest. We got our mats set up. There's going to be music. Like I say, I'm giving away some awards and some public awards and stuff. And like I say, it's not really so much that we're going to make any money. We'll probably break even, but the fighters are going to make money, and they have a good chance to make money and a good chance to show their skills in front of 200 people.
All right. So I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for the time, Clint.
Yeah, thank you.
One more time, this has been Ed Hitchens for the Community Roundup for Energeticcity.ca, brought to you by Brad's Furniture and Appliances.